Welcome back or to the channel. Trucker Ride here with S.E.E. and it's Sunday, May 19th, and we're just chilling out here at the TA truck stop on I-70, west side of Columbus, Ohio. I've got 3 stops tomorrow morning in Columbus, and then a couple just south of there, and from the outskirts of Columbus, Ohio, then I shoot on out to Roanoke, Virginia. So pretty widespread, a lot of miles this week on this route coming up, and I just want to get done and get railing back because it's obviously Memorial Weekend coming up, and I spent the last 2 days, got a ton of house chores at my personal house and of course at my summer place. Went down there, did some yard upkeep, cleaning and all that, and just getting ready to go and spend about 3-4 days down there coming up. So anyhow, hopefully y'all are gonna have a nice Memorial Weekend, and hopefully paying some respect to those that have given their lives so we could be where we're at today in this country. So if you want to thank an active veteran for just serving, but also pay respect for the widowed spouses that have gone with their loved one being, killed in action. I lost my uncle 1969, Vietnam, so I never really got to know him, and but he was an officer and a graduate of Michigan State University, so very smart man. Wish I would have gotten to know him better. So so Memorial Weekend's about that. So anyhow, besides that, hey, we are going to be on the road, my spouse and I, June 8th, Saturday. We are going to pop off some lives now that I can do that from my phone, and I want to do that because we're heading back. We're going to get the permanent implant for her brain stimulator, all the optic fiber wires going through and jazz like that. So if you didn't catch the live stream, it's in there. I'll link it into this video. The external wires she had in then for the trial run, it was a 95% success rate. So therefore, we're heading back, get her out of pain, and hopefully move her forward into a better way, living, health, and the things we take for granted every day. It is an uphill struggle, to say the least. So now, getting into today's subject, I want to say, everyone that's been commenting on that video, it's the most commented video and the most liked on the prohibited status if you've had priors on drug and alcohol in your driving record. So no sooner got that video out, the House Press Secretary announced that the DOJ is looking to reclassify marijuana from a Schedule 1 to Schedule 3. So I just want to go over the articles and let's go through these. It's not set in stone, but they're moving it forward. And I told you guys, I heard some rhetoric about it last year that this was going to be a needle mover. So I'm just going to read through this article, touch on it, but I also want to pull away from this article and touch on the 5 different classifications so we know when they're talking about reclassifying it from a Schedule 1 to a Schedule 3. So the Biden administration's anticipated move to recategorize marijuana from a Schedule 1 to a Schedule 3 drug under the Controlled Substance Act will likely lead to more truck drivers, what they're saying, more truck crashes, unless safeguards are put in place, the American Trucking Association has warned. So If finalized, marijuana will no longer hold the high-level classification it currently holds over fentanyl and meth drugs, driving our nation's overdose epidemic, and it will remove burdensome, long-standing barriers to critical research. So they're trying to throw the research in there along with stuff. So, you know, hey, that's fine. I follow more of a holistic pattern than I do the Western medicine and the pharmaceutical side. But scheduling of drugs, drug substances and certain chemicals used to make drugs are classified into 5 distinct categories. Depending on the drug's acceptable medical use, because that's where they kind of bench it, can it be used for a medical use and its dependency. So these lists are intended as general reference and are not comprehensive listings of all controlled substances. Drugs, substances, and certain chemicals used to make drugs are classified, and these lists, so we already went through that. Schedule 1 drugs, substances, or chemicals are defined as drugs with no currently accepted medical use and a high potential for abuse. And examples of that is your marijuana, under the Schedule 1 right now. Heroin, LSD, ecstasy, meth, peyote. So then we go into Schedule 2. Schedule 2 are chemicals, drugs, and substances with a high potential for abuse, with use potentially leading to severe psychological or physical dependence. These drugs are also considered dangerous. Some examples are Vicodin, cocaine, methamphetamine, methadone, Dilaudid, Demerol, OxyContin, fentanyl, dexedrine, Adderall, Ritalin. So obviously all those names are coming up. Other than cocaine and meth, a lot of those are your pain meds and medical use stuff. And you're going to see this being stated over and over, the same thing. Drugs that are defined with no current accepted medical use, high potential for abuse, but then they say as you get into Schedule 2, potentially in a severe, so with high potential for abuse, with use leading to severe psychological or physical dependence. So then they start the dependence and all this jazz on 2. Then into 3, substances or chemicals are defined as drugs with moderate to low potential for physical and psychological dependence. So it starts going down on the potential of physical and psychological dependence. Schedule 3 drugs abuse potential is less than Schedule 1 and Schedule 2, but still a little stronger than Schedule 4. Products, let's see. Basically, Schedule 3 is going to be your Tylenol with codeine, which that was a big thing back in the day, 70s and 80s. They've gotten away from that. Ketamine, anabolic steroids, and testosterone, you know, so if you're into bodybuilding and all that, performance-enhancing drugs. Schedule 4 drugs, and it's funny how you just read this and they change the wording slightly. Defined as drugs with low potential for abuse and low risk of dependence. These are your Xanax, Soma, Darvon, Darvocet, Valium, Ativan, Talwin, Ambien, Tramadol. Again, majority of those are all just prescription drugs set by your primary care or a pain management clinic. And Schedule 5, with lower potential for abuse than Schedule 4, and consists of preparations containing limited quantities, and I gotta laugh at this, containing limited quantities of certain narcotics. Schedule 5 drugs are generally used for anti-diarrheal, antitussive, and analgesic purposes. So basically, your Robitussin, Lomatol, Modafen, Lyrica, and basically over-the-counter drugs, cough syrups, and NSAIDs, you know, I don't know, stuff that basically nothing to get excited about there. So that is your Schedules 1 through 5. And I wanted to, so everyone kind of saw where the marijuana is coming from, and they're trying to push it too. So then with the Schedule 3, it's not going to fall under the FMCSA's clearinghouse tested drugs to be tested. So let's see, in anticipation, let's see, if this rulemaking is permitted to move forward without appropriate regulatory review, oversight, and deliberation, ATA is concerned that it will severely curtail the ability of motor carriers and other employers of safety-sensitive positions. Marijuana will no longer hold the higher level classification it currently holds over fentanyl and meth drugs, which we just talked about. This announcement builds on the work President Biden has already done to pardon a record number of federal offenses for simply possessing marijuana. According to the DOJ, the proposed change is consistent with the view of the Department of Health and Human Services that marijuana has a currently accepted medical use, as well as HHS's views about marijuana's abuse potential and level of physical and psychological dependence. In responding to the proposal, ATA noted that the Department of Transportation's current drug and alcohol testing authority is limited by their HHS's mandatory guidelines for federal workplace drug testing programs, which allows motor carriers to test for Schedule 1 or 2 drugs, but not for Schedule 3 drugs. Take heed on that. So so when you go in for a random or for your med card, they're checking for Schedule 1 and 2 drugs, but not 3. If this rulemaking is permitted to move forward without appropriate regulatory review, oversight, and deliberation, ATA is concerned that it will severely curtail the ability of motor carriers and other employers of safety-sensitive positions to maintain a safe working environment, threatening the safety of all road users. Marijuana represented close to Horath. He's one of the vice presidents here of he's the senior vice president at ATA. What he's saying is, pointed out that marijuana represented close to 60% of all positive employer drug tests of regulated commercial drivers reported to the FMCSA's clearinghouse. Also, he has also cited recent examples of fatal crashes involving truck drivers who had used marijuana, including a multi-vehicle crash in Indiana last year that killed 7 people, and a crash this year in Texas involving a cement truck driver who hit a school bus head-on, killing a child. Rescheduling marijuana without explicit drug testing carve-out for safety-sensitive workers could ultimately lead to more devastating tragedies like these and add to the ever-increasing death toll on our nation's roadways, he said. But now, in the opposite of that, the Owner-Operator Independent Driver Association, OOIDA, had a more cautious response to the proposed rule. They said they have a large, diverse membership, and we are in the process of garnering feedback, said Greg O'Connor, the spokesman for the OOIDA. There are still plenty of questions to be addressed on the topic, particularly because a person who tests positive is not necessarily under the influence. It may not have been under the influence for weeks, but are still testing positive. So that's where this ends right now. So basically, the OOIDA is saying they want to see, I think they want to get some more data and more research, because they haven't really opened up the marijuana to put it into a Schedule 3 would open it up for more testing and a medical use, but they also want to see where your influence, your respond rate and all that after you've had marijuana, when it's going to be cleaned out to where you are more, back to being, how do you want to say, with alcohol, sober and able to drive without the effects, even though it'll show up testing positive in your bloodstream, but it's not hindering your abilities to react, drive, and stuff like that out on the road. So that's what the OOIDA is basically saying, is let's get some more research and do some medical testing to see. Basically, they're going to want to know how long after you have had a vape or a joint to basically say, okay, if you had it at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and when your shift was done, how long do you have to wait until you know, you can drive again? Is it going to fall within your 10-hour break, or is it going to be a little longer? So that's the information and data they want to see back yet. So they're not pushing it away, but they just want to make sure before they jump on board that there's a little bit more research behind it. So that's where we're at with that, folks. I'm going to stay up on this. I hope this helped a little bit with you guys. I know it's a thing. I know I have friends and family that use medical marijuana. A couple of them use it for recreation. I don't turn them away. Hey, to each his own out there. I like having a stogie and a bourbon on my off days and when I'm down at my summer place. So, you know, like I said, to each their own. But let's just put in, and that's what they're saying, is put in some guardrails or safety barriers so we know what we're up against, like alcohol, how long you need to be. That's got to be your last drink to when you get behind the wheel and start driving, how many hours you need to be behind you on that. So here we are, folks, and let's stay up on this. I appreciate y'all's comments and feedback. Hey, you know, if this is going to get some of you back into the seat, fine. If not, maybe this may change the trajectory to some of you all out there that maybe are going to apply to a job that has been safety sensitive according to marijuana, and this may open the doors for employment for many of you. So until next time, folks, stay safe out there. Holidays coming up. Keep your head on the swivel. Put your phone down while you're driving. The roads are going to be a little more congested this weekend coming up. And continuing educating yourself like we're doing here. Knowledge is learned, not taught. And we'll see you all here in the next video.